So Black Team moved out yet today, one of the senior seamen told Adagio. Both of them were looking at intelligence reports, looking over the immediate plans on how they would be able to storm CSIS headquarters, take out all the targets, and deal with security on site. The addition of Toronto PD and likely reinforcements from the RCMP and ultimately elements of other CA and SOF teams like the IRTF, Arrowhead, and even the regular army. So far, it was looking feasible, but most of their forces wouldn't survive the assault. The plan was to maximize survival while removing the worst of elements, including CSIS Director Golden Rule and CSIS Assistant Director Major General Horizon Brave, the military's liaison to CSIS, and the League of Defense of Vice Admiral Poutine, RCN, likely now the head of the Siren Project. Oh, what, did their panties get too big for us peons? Another Siren asked. Yeah, heard the old man's got some special missions he has them running, so they're on a moment's notice. They moved to the special room in the main building and are getting treated like rock stars. A third Siren spoke up. So Lieutenant isn't gonna like that. I heard he's a real hard ass when it comes to that sort of thing. Doesn't matter. Overheard Chief Comet tell Petty Officer Stars that Lieutenant Rice has been missing for a couple of days. Possibly Seaman Russ. Excuse me, Petty Officer Seaman Russ probably killed her and dumped the body or some shit. I doubt that. Probably went AWOL. You know, the Delta Company moved out a couple of days ago? They probably went after her. No way! The first one spoke up. I heard that the Delta Company's been tasked with building a bolt hole for us in the local forest in case something goes wrong. And believe me, it's gonna. Sooner or later, the American military is gonna find out we're here, and they're coming after us. You're an idiot, you know that? The third one replied. American military can't operate in the U.S. It's one of their laws. Saw on TV once. Yes, because television is the gold standard of truthfulness and authenticity. Well, you have an expert here, the second one said, turning to Adagio. Hey, Dazzle, you've been assigned to deep cover here for a while. What do you know? Adagio put down the reports he was looking at, trying to hide the disgust he felt. As he felt she was still being asked to give away secrets regarding her home. Sure, she wasn't American, and technically wasn't an illegal alien, but Camelot was her home now. Not CFP, Cold Lake. She didn't like giving up information easily. 2 things, she said. 1, the military can be deployed in the U.S. Each state has units called the National Guard and Air National Guard, which can be deployed at a moment's notice and be temporarily federalized to the American Army and Air Force. Ooh, listen to you, all American now, the first girl teased. Maybe you should try applying for SEALs, the other 2 sirens giggled. 2nd, unless you want major casualties when we hit CSIS HQ, maybe. Just maybe you should focus less on what those assholes at Black Team are doing, and more on how we're going to take and hold Station Boulevard and everything within a 200-meter radius without half the sisterhood dying. The other sirens, chest-eyes, turned away from their gossip and went back to work, leaving Adagio alone. Sisterhood or not, I'm really starting to dislike this place. Meanwhile, back with Shining Armor, Shining arrived at the restaurant to see Sandalwood sitting at a lonely table. He could practically feel the sorrow and rage radiating from her on the other side of the building. Welcome to IHOP, the greeter at the door told him, a cheerful smile on her face. How many people for your table, sir? Actually, joining a friend, he said, pointing at her. Oh. The woman said with a withdrawal to indicate something was seriously amiss. Look, I don't know what is wrong, but seriously, try to cheer up your girlfriend there, she advised him. She's been growling at the staff since he got here. Shiny did a double take. We're FBI agents, not lovers, Shiny clarified. Yeah, that's what they all say. Now talk to her, and I'll bring the menus in a bit. She patted him on the shoulder and beat a hasty retreat back to the cash register. Shiny sat down and instantly noticed that Sandalwood was both angry and crying. Hey, I'm here. Sandalwood muttered something incomprehensible, and Shiny asked, Want to repeat that? She looked down, and her eyes were haunted. I said my neighbor's missing, and I got there just in time to find that fucking card, Shiny. They're probably gonna find our body in a few hours. It's my goddamn fault. Sonny didn't know what to say. What could he say? Sandy. Now, do not comment about whatever fucking platitudes you're gonna say to me. I promise I'll look after Ruby and her boyfriend. It's their Mitzi's age, and now she's fucking dead because of me. Sandalwood's shout caught the attention of everyone in the restaurant, and not a single person paused to do anything else than that. Sonny pulled out his badge. FBI issue. Please go about your business, he said in his police voice, and as the rest of the restaurant patrons turned back to their meal, he pocketed his credentials again. She demurred. Sorry, I've had about half a pot of coffee before I got here, and I've already been through the whole cafe. Is that even healthy? Shining asked. This is the waitress brought to their menus. You weren't kidding about the cop thing, were you? The waitress said, horrified. In response, Sandalwood pulled out her own badge. The waitress gasped. Whatever you two want, it's on the house. She murmured a barely present comprehension, walking away. Hey, maybe I could get those chocolate chip pancakes with a smiley face and a billion calories. For once I could say, fuck you to the world, she said with a hero smile. Sandy, talk to me. No, you're the last person I wanted to talk to. But the person I want closest. But it's never gonna work. She leaned back in her chair. What's not? I don't want to talk about it right now. She growled. Please, Sandy, just sit there. Don't say a word to keep me company now, right, okay? She looked at him. For once in his life, he saw a girl more fragile than any time he had ever seen her before. Right now, I don't want anyone around but you, shining armor. Not even kids. Fine. We're going to talk later, okay, Sandy? I've always been available for you, Shiny. Always. Meanwhile, gathering in the conference room, Velvet asked her secretary to get the large screen ready. She and the rest of the staff at the ECDSS were ready to watch the televised news conference that would probably change their lives forever. In the corner of the screen, just off the side of the podium, so you can see several members of the DA's office, including her future daughter-in-law. Well, Director, a woman said to Velvet as she sat down next to her. Velvet recognized her. Mercury Male. She was one of the senior aides for the County Board of Supervisors. Do you have a plan to deal with this? I have to discuss it with Dr. Venerable as soon as he arrives, Velvet told her. I'm afraid not. Mercury dropped an envelope on the desk. Dr. Venerable was resigned as of last night, effective immediately. Apparently the stress of losing his granddaughter was too much for him, and he had a heart attack this morning. He asked this to be given to you. It's a copy of his resignation letter. The board met last night, and I don't need to tell you you've been appointed acting director until further notice, Dr. Velvet. The appointment documents have also been placed in the envelope as well. Velvet was stunned. One of Ven's grandchildren was a victim? I know you're not prepared for this. None of us are, but how could we? Mercury rose from her seat. If it was any consolation, Doctor, I know you'll do a good job. You actually care about what you do in the office, and let me tell you, that's all too rare in this day and age. Now, if you excuse me, I need to get back to my office before a storm starts. I see, Velvet said, looking at the envelope as if it was a live snake. She considered getting one of the senior staffers in the room to call for an emergency meeting. But the sound started to come to the screen, and the Carolina Vice Mayor, I wish I could remember what that jackass's name was. I always met with Mayor. At least she gave a shit about the kids in the orphanage. Stood in front of the podium. At this time, it's my sad duty to inform that we have a growing crisis on our hands. I feel like we need to do a new voice for this. Ooh, a turkey's got it. Let's see. Click, 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 click. There we go. A few days ago, you were informed about the brutal and senseless but unrelated murders of Mayor Mayer's husband and daughter. What you were not told is how her daughter was killed. And today I'm here on behalf of the city, county, and federal law enforcement agencies to give out details of what happened to Lisa Dulots. Because now we have 3 girls that are dead just like her. It is my reluctant duty to inform you all that Cadillac metropolitan area may be under the attack of a serial killer. Everyone in the room gasped, save for Velvet, who had already been informed of it, and was now having to deal with the weight of being in charge of the hundreds of young lives who are now potential targets. One of the negatives of Equestria County is to have the largest social services system in the state. Only Los Angeles, San Francisco, Orange, and San Diego counties have bigger. She regularly read the name of those under her care, and though she wanted a large family, and thankfully had already drawn from the system once, she couldn't give them all a home, as much as she wished. Now she had to protect them all from this, in addition to everything else. Meanwhile, Cornflower cast in shock to see what she was hearing. She grew up in this city, and now was turning into the playpen of a madman. "Mo, was this try you?" She heard a voice sit behind her, and she looked to see Apple Bloom watching, her attention rapt. "Applejack," she said to her daughter, who was busy sucking shells, "turn off the TV." "Ma, I don't think—" "Do it!" Cornflower roared. Holding on to the table, she stood above it, so she wouldn't fall and wouldn't take any more of her anger and fear out on her older daughter. "Mo," Apple Bloom replied, not sure how to react while her mother was in such a state. Nor did she know how when her mother grabbed her, to held her tight and sobbed, "He's not gonna get you. I'm not gonna let him go and let either of you go." "I did not raise my girls so some fucktard can think he can chop them up." Firefly sneezed as he watched the video, muscles tensing. School watched her mother's reaction to the news on screen. "Rainbow?" she asked her older sister. "We'll be fine," Rainbow assured her, pointing to her mother. She added, "If anything, any killer coming after us has to worry about her." As part of the reporters in this audience, Cookie Crumbles felt faint. Her daughters were home right now, by themselves. Were they safe? Was she risking their lives by being here? And even if she was here, her husband was on the road right now, covering some surfer event in Honolulu for ESPN. Would he come back to his daughters in caskets, and Cookie herself broken? You're not political, don't you know? Don't you know, Cookie? Cover the story. You're going to save your daughters. The weapon is troops. Continuing to jot down notes as the vice mayor spoke. Cookie swore she would do everything she could as a journalist to cover this story. The dead had the right to be defended by the truth. And while lawyers and cops would eventually catch them, they needed help. That, she knew in her heart, was what the press was for. This court carried Fluttershy back to her room. After watching part of the report, she fainted, and he couldn't blame her. His family knew one of the victims personally. Placing her in a bed, he took off her shoes, placed a cover on her, and kissed her on the cheek. "Well, no one's going to harm my little girl," he promised. The TV still blurring, he walked to the window of the penthouse they were renting. In the distance, he could see the southern end of the city, and possibly out there was the person or persons responsible for doing this. He was a musician and a celebrity. There wasn't much he could do to help, but someone had to record the aftermath of it all and place it for history's firmament, mourn the dead and honor the heroes and condemn the wicked forever. "You may have left us naked for a moment, whoever you are," Discord growled the murderer somewhere out there, "but I'll leave you naked for all eternity." "Your sister's never gonna let us hear the end of this," Karakae said as he turned off the TV. "She barely agreed back in December to letting Pinky stay. Now we have a serial killer? It's the summer, there's nothing stopping her from assisting Pinky move back." "There's us, dear," Cupcake replied. "This is Pinky's home and we are her family. My sister doesn't see it the same way we do. We might be safe there from serial killers, but what about tornadoes and other things? Life is risk. Pinky's been living with risk since she was born, and to stop her now would break her." No, my sister doesn't get what she wants," Cup told her husband. "If it gets to that point, I'll fight Quarter-C Alden Court all the way." Watching in the conference room in the Greater Equestrian Unified School District's headquarters building, both Celestia and Lunas had scowls on their faces. These were their students, in a way their own children. They looked at all the other principals and vice principals present, and all had the same look of elemental rage on them. As a courtesy, their equivalents at the private schools had been invited, and their faces had red fury. Had the situation not been so horrific, the look of righteous anger present on Sister Bellflower, principal of Holy Cross, would have been one to laugh. As the conference ended, no one said anything. Then Sombra spoke up. "Give me 5 minutes with that asshole, and I'll show you what a Marine does to motherfuckers like him." Amen to that, Sister Bellflower tongue grumbling. Watching the television at the Merry Witch, the tears streamed down Harmonica's eyes as he knew what was coming. Somehow her instincts told her it would be worse. She lived through that hell the last time, and now someone wanted to open Pandora's box once more, and hope, as always, would be loosed long after the horrors were. Moving away from the cash register, she said nothing, but instead moved over to where Trixie and Lyra had also been watching. She had hugged them both tight, wordlessly, tears flowing unabashedly. My goodness, these are my girls, she prayed. Don't let them be harmed. As she walked away from the office, Cadence and Hearts of Fire sworn into shining his friends, Melody and Jasmine. Cadence, I don't need to tell you this, but take care. Shiny's a good guy, and I hate to see him go lethal weapon because something happened to you. Thanks, Mel, Cadence replied. That guy's good as caught. Yeah, this asshole just hit the sore spots, and everyone with a bastard's town's gonna be going cowboy until this guy's caught. Forget about good cop, bad cop. You're about to see bad cop, worst cop. As the special televised broadcast of the murders ended, and the regular broadcasting began again, the three girls in a home in San Paloma were utterly speechless. Are we going to be okay? Octavia asked. We'll be fine, Tavi, Sunset answered her. We'll be fine. As long as we stay together, safety's in numbers. They're probably looking at single targets. So as long as we go anywhere together, we should be okay. Twilight then looked at Sunset. I'm worried about you, however. You have to go from work to your car, as well as stop for gas and such. Sunset gave her sister and smiled. Don't worry. Anyone tries to catch me, Hadouken! Right straight at their ass. You're going to go fireball them, Octavia replied, trying not to laugh. Sunny, please, we're being serious here, Twilight huffed. So you don't believe me? Only place anyone can throw fireballs is a video game. Fine, don't believe me, Sunset sighed. But don't worry about me. Dad insisted I carry a key baton and a can of pepper spray. I don't think it'll help, but personally I think I'll be okay otherwise. You sure? Well, we can always go back to the explanation about magic missiles. Fine, I get it. Twilight crossed her arms and pouted. There was something so innately cute about that, it caused Sunset to burst out in peals of laughter. Meanwhile, back of what Define right. It's done, Contralto said a few minutes later, walking into Define's office in her human form and wearing a t-shirt and shorts that he created for her before he departed. Creepy as hell is that bucket that looks like Bones sucked up all the blood like it was vacuum. But I don't know shit about magic, and I don't want to. Totally, he said, setting down the book he read. It's not for you to know. Only certain people, those born in magical bloodlines, can hope to wield a niece of cantrips, enchantments, and calamities. But to be a master of magus myself, you have to be born from the greatest of all. Merlin? Ha! Define laughed. Merlin was powerful, yes. But he left no descendants. There's no record of Morganess, his real apprentice, not Morgan Le Fay, who's labeled as such in those stupid stories. Haven't had any either. Trust me, I checked. No descendants of Emerald of France, of Abe no Samai of Japan, Famel of France, or any of the other greats in history. Only one, my father of fathers, Baldassare di Cavalcanti, the great mind of Italy, had survived. Has produced a prodigious mind as me. Don't be so modest, Contralto drawled. Modesty is for the weak. Those with true strength have the right to shout from the highest peaks. For who is there to stop them? He asked. So, is there anything you wish to report? Yeah. How long does the serum last? We do not know as of yet. It is a first-generation system, after all. But don't worry. We are working on creating enough for you, your teammates, and once the means of production is settled, then enough for all the sirens. He leaned forward on his desk, looked at her eye to eye. I want you to win. Your enemies are mine, and I'll see to it that you have the means to avenge yourself against those who have wronged you. Thank you, sir, Contralto said. Anything else? Yes. He handed her a sheaf of paper. Please drop off the body in accordance with what the instructions specify. If you wish, you may wish and see what the response of the police are, and I guarantee there will be responses. and to work sick with your captain. So he's currently working with your logistics personnel to create improved armaments for you. Once you have all the means worked out, report back to me and we'll test it.
You test it?
Would you rather be shot by your compatriots because they do not yet know what you've become? Or would you rather test with someone who is aware, has already seen you in the nude? He shrugged. You need to fear nothing untowards from me. Your captain and I are involved. I do not wish for a concubine.
Fine, you can look, but don't test the merchandise. I'll be back later.
Fine. I look forward to it.
He added,
nodding to her as he stood at attention and saluted, then departed his office. Feisty, that one. He mused as he closed the door. Were it not for my agreement with Katana, perhaps he would have been a better target. Giving it no more thought, he instead turned to the book that would be the centerpiece of everything. The Heptameron. It was of unknown age, but first mass-produced in either 1485 or 1520, depending on who you believed. It mattered little because he had one of the many first copies, dating back to the middle 12th century. It had been a long but worthwhile translation into modern-made parchment and leather binding, and he had been very sorry to have had antique bookbinder Barcelona killed. But one did what one had to do. Going impatient to where he was, he read through the transcribed Latin, thankful that his education as a boy provided him with the means to read the book. With this spell thus, thou shalt summon a demon of great power and terrible fury, one in which his own plane was kin as the Great Destroyer, attained here in the celestial realm by the great Merlin, a sorcerer whose name has been lost to time. Meanwhile, back in Equestria. No, seriously, we're going back to Equestria. A reality away in the deepest recesses of an ancient crypt under the gleaming spire of the Crystal Empire, Raspberry Barrel groaned. Can't remember that voice. I haven't done that for a few stories yet.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Did you ever write anything straightforward, you old idiot?
She groaned, looking at the documents of her great. She stopped counting after that. Grandfather Sombra, the Dark King. She'd been through his research collection so far. She found two things. One, he was a master of circular writing, so much that he could put modern poets to shame, and that she was getting very irritated by phrases like, and thus that is wished is so, and thus be wished that is known as wished to be, which his writing was littered with. She felt a flash of light magic behind her. How could she not? Those are polar opposites in spell power, after all.
I came looking for you when you missed breakfast, Kane suddenly decided. Sorry, been trying to translate Sombra's writing from early middle stupid into Equus, Raspberry groaned. Sorry, but I'm not ever letting Twilight look at these things. Not because I'm afraid she'll be corrupted by the contents, because he's going to read them and it's going to give her convincing fits. Well, from the records, Sombra's always a wheels within wheels sort of stallion, Keynes mused. But you probably need to get out of this place. I know, Raspberry nodded. I probably could use some food and sleep. Plus Healy's probably looking for me too. So he got out of the chair and closed the book. You know, I haven't found anything that'll help, either regarding his mirror, platinums, or other mirrors. But there's one thing I did find, though, that was curious. What was that? Keynes asked as she teleported them from the room, directly towards the dining room. There's one book that Sombra has that I can't make heads or tails of, written in a language I'm not familiar with. Wonder if it's for the human plane. I couldn't answer that, but perhaps Twilight could? It's possible. I didn't sense anything different about it. And it doesn't seem, well, informed by dark magics or light. It should be safe for her to look at, but it's from the human world. Really a problem? Raspberry shook her head. From what Sunset told me, the human world is for all intents and purposes magically dead. Either this book predates the loss of magic on Earth, I think it's called, or was written by a human mad stallion completely out of his mind. How important is it? I can arrange for a courier to send it to Twilight as soon as possible.
Did I hear about a courier? Shining Armor didn't press, dressed in his armor. Working out with the troops. Some of them needed an extra polish, but some of them look like their work could just go. Keynes gave a mock disappointing look. Anything to get out of your princely duties, Shining? The stallion rubbed the back of his head. Well, yeah, you know I'm not as good at that stuff as you are. I'm a guard stallion, tried and true. I bet the other Shining Armor knows how to do paperwork, The Alcorn teased and got a pout from her husband.
Keen's laughter said, "Oh, Shining, you know that you're the only stallion for me."
I hope so. I don't think I looked good as a scrawny monkey like that. He said, remembering the image the mirror had shown him. He turned to Raspberry and asked, You said you need a courier, Raz?
"It might be important enough to justify,"
The Alcorn maid said. Shining mused on for a second. Well, Captain Frag is heading to Camelot tonight for a couple of weeks and leave. If I contact him, he could get to the palace. Celestia should be able to get to Twilight with no problem.
"That sounds like a good idea. I'm not sure of pronouncing it correctly. Heptemron? Ugh, I thought humans had the same language we do."
Meanwhile, sirens blared as cop cars roared down the street. The main road was regularly patrolled by the CPD, ECSD, and CHP. And all three police agencies were now out in force. As if letting the serial killer know they would be no more. That line had been drawn in the sand, in a thin blue line, and the house that watched that line had teeth. None of it mattered to True's thoughts. His girlfriend was missing, and the news was true, she was likely dead. I tried to call her parents a few minutes ago, but were reducedly unaware. News having not made it to Wisconsin yet. He had no other way of contacting them, so he was unable to get a hold of them. He would never know that Ruby was in danger, or worse. He plopped down on the couch, drinking straight from the bottle of Crown Royal. He didn't care if he was sloshed. He didn't much care about anything right now. Ruby would have gotten on his case about it, but that was exactly why he was drinking. Maybe if he got hammered enough, she'd come back to him and chew him out for getting pants on head plastered, but he welcomed that. Anything to gaze into her tangerine-colored eyes once more. He thought he heard a knock on the door, but was too busy drinking to care. He then looked out the window, and as fucked up as he was, thought he saw something right out of his nightmares. A woman with a face that reminded him of a fish. Looking back at him with a smile with dagger-sharp teeth and eyes that looked like they belonged on a snake. He blinked as she was gone. He cursed the drinking and throwing the bottle of Crown Royal against the wall, shattering it and spraying the precious brown liquid all over the place. He mumbled something in approximation of Ruby's name. To a normal person, it would have sounded like random vowels and consonants blended together by a fine blend of ingredients made up of Canadian whiskey. Tears streamed down his face. He loved and missed her, and without her he had nothing left. They'd been together practically since that first day they met 4 years ago, and nothing had torn them apart. Not his previous girlfriend, who had flown out of her hometown to try to woo him back, and not her ex. He was a prick anyway, Ruby had admitted to him. The knock came at the door again. In an alcohol-fueled haze, he saw it was Ruby at the door, calling to him, beckoning to him, and love her. He crawled, one moment at a time, towards the door, forcing himself to his feet. He struggled once more, twice, to open the door, but finally opened it. Ruby, True breathed, almost approaching the actual words. You came back. And there she was, waiting for him, affixed to the door, looking pale and beautiful as ever. Another person would have screamed in horror at the way she had been crucified to the door, but not True. His love was back. As he come back for him, he removed the card from her mouth and kissed it, swearing that he loved her more than anything, and would always be with her. The corpse of Ruby Tuesday said nothing, remaining still as it did from the moment she died. Something in the back of his mind, however, knew what was going on, and kissed her again, looking at her beautiful nude form. She stayed in the peak of physical perfection, as much as anyone who wasn't an athlete could, so she could always be perfect for him, she often said. Forever perfect. I had to stay that way for her too, the most reptile part of his mind said as he was sober. He would have screamed, called the cops, but for now, all he could remember was the lyrics from his favorite song. Oh, I see where this is going. Valentine is done here, but now they're gone. Romeo and Juliet are together in an eternity. Romeo and Juliet, 40,000 men and women every day, like Romeo and Juliet. 40,000 men and women every day redefine happiness. Another 40,000 coming every day. We can be like they are. Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Baby, take my hand. Don't fear the reaper. We'll be able to fly. Don't fear the reaper. Baby, I'm your man. Ah, nah, nah, nah. He let go of her and climbed onto the banister. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid, he cried. The coroner would be there in that afternoon, and they swore True Thoughts had a smile on his face. Not to ruin the sadness of all this or the horror of it all, but, dude, suicide wasn't exactly the answer. You could have always gone for necrophilia. I mean, the corpse was right over there.
Do you think that bit of levity helped to lighten the mood?
I hope it did, Trix. I hope it did.